When we want to understand Bitcoin, it is really a good idea to understand asymmetric cryptographic systems. When we talk about asymmetric cryptographic systems, they usually have three properties, which I want to introduce to you in this video. The first property is that they are being asymmetric. The second property is that you are able to encrypt and decrypt messages, though I have to say this property is not really used in Bitcoin. The third property is that you can create digital signatures which can be used to verify the authenticity of a message or the ownership of a message. Before I go into details of explaining these three properties to you, I want to emphasize that this is the first video that goes hand in hand with my book effort. If you go to the GitHub repository of this book, you can look at the PDF file. I have linked this also in the description of this video, and you can look at chapter 2.1.1, which is called Electronic Cash as a Chain of Digital Signatures. And you can basically read up everything that is being explained here in this video, and you can also give me feedback to this. Not only to the video, but also to the text. You can make a pull request, and if you don't have the time to provide feedback, you might want to check out my Telecoin fundraiser, because this is a community effort, and I really depend on your help and your support to create this book and these videos. Let's start right away with the three properties. So I have prepared an IPython notebook because I will show you some code in order to demonstrate these properties. Even if you're not a programmer or a developer, I think you can probably follow this through. The code is also open source, so you can find it in the GitHub repository of my book project. Before I can show you that keys actually behave asymmetric, we have to generate some keys. So we just import some crypto libraries, set some variables, and then basically we use the RSA algorithm to generate a private key, and we output the private key. So here we can see our private key. Since we want to do several examples, I also generate a second key. I can execute the code, and you see I have two keys that look very different. The beginning is almost the same, but if you already look at the second line, the private key 1 looks very different than the private key 2. So the interesting thing about asymmetric cryptographic systems is that the public and the private key relate to each other. From the private key, you can calculate and compute the public key. So we can see here that for private key 1, I have a method that is called public key, and for private key 2, I also have a method that is called public key. And when I run the code, you can see that you actually see two different public keys. There's no API implemented in Python that is able to derive a private key from a public key. So if I execute this code, I can see which methods exist on my public key object, and we can see the only method that actually really exists is has private key, but this executes to false. So I have not explained here why it's kind of impossible to generate a private key from a public key. Technically it is possible, but it's computationally very hard. What computationally very hard means is that you basically cannot do this in a feasible time with one or even millions of computers. And this is really where the asymmetry comes from. So you come up with a secret, and this is used as your private key. And then there is some computation that easily derives a public key that also has some nice properties together with this private key, which I show in the second and third property. And you can only do this computation from the private key to the public key, but not in the other direction. So let's talk about the second property, which is the ability to perform encryption and decryption. For this, I have created two messages. One message is "this is a Rene coin," and the other one is "this is a Rene coin," appended with a little dot. And now I have to create a cipher from my public key, because in the encryption I use the public key to encrypt a text. And once I've done this, I can use the cipher to encrypt message A, and I'm doing basically the same for message B. And I encode both outputs. So when I execute the code, we can see that the message "this is a Rene coin" encrypts to this string, and when I only add this little dot, the entire string that is encrypted changes completely, and this is one of the properties that encryption should have. But we can also continue now, and we can execute a similar code with our public key 2. Remember, we have generated two private keys from which we have derived two public keys, and you can see that the message "this is a Rene coin" encrypts to this particular encrypted message, and this also looks very different to this one, and this makes sense because we have used a different private key, or basically a different public key to do the encryption. When I have the second message, the message B, also the encrypted ciphertext changes. The interesting thing now is that with an asymmetric encryption system, I cannot use the public key to decrypt the message. However, I can use the private key, and this is exactly what's being done in this code. So let's try to decrypt all 4 ciphertexts, and you can see the first ciphertext, which was encrypted with key 1, goes back to this one, and then the second message, which was also encrypted with key 1, goes back to this one, and then we have the 2 messages that were encrypted with key 2, and they also decrypt. However, if I want to use the key 1 to decrypt the ciphertext 2, I can try this, but that doesn't work. So before continuing with the digital signatures, I want to emphasize on the asymmetry of the public and the private key. We can encrypt a message with a public key, and we can only decrypt it when we have access to the private key. In this video, I have not explained why this is the reason. This might be a future video, and also within the book I plan to do some parts of this as an appendix. But in order to understand Bitcoin and the Lightning Network, we will just take these properties for granted. We will do the same thing with the digital signatures that we're discussing now. In the past, I have already created a video where I make use of digital signatures to create electronic coins. This video is heavily influenced by Justin Moon, and you can click here on the info button in order to see this video. So let's continue with the third property, which is the ability to sign messages. For this, I have created a small helper function, again with this crypto library from Python. This function basically takes a private key as an input and a message, and it returns the signature of the message. You don't have to understand these 3 functions, you can just read them up in the API documentation. And now what I do is I compute 3 signatures. I compute the signatures for message A and message B with my first private key, and then I also compute the signature for message A with my second private key. When I execute the code, you can see the result, and you basically see the signatures vary for each of these computations. So the important fact to remember here from this little example is that the signature really depends on the message and on the private key. So if I have the same message but I sign it with 2 different private keys, then the signature will also change. However, if I have different messages and I sign them with the same private key, also the signatures will differ. Now, a signature alone is not useful if we are not able to verify the signature. So I have created another helper function, which is called isValid, and it takes 3 arguments, a message, a signature, and the pub key. And you can only use a pub key that belongs to the private key that has created the signature. That's exactly the asymmetric property here. You cannot do it in the other way around, and that's what makes it so hard to forge a signature. So we can actually also execute this code, and we can see that the first 2 validation processes are valid because I am validating message A with signature 1A. So this is the signature produced by public key 1 for message A, and the second one I'm using the signature for message B that was also created by public key 1. So this should validate to true. But now when I use the signature that was generated with the private key A to validate message B, this computes to false. And also in this case, where I'm using message A and providing signature B, this computes to false. Interesting is the last case also. When I'm using message A and I'm using the second signature computed with my second private key, this will validate to true. But also I cannot use this signature to validate the message B. And as I'm seeing right now, I should actually also extend the example a little bit and try to validate with the pub key 1. So let's even try to say, well, this is message A and a signature that was computed for message A. So this should also validate to false. And we can see, yes, the first one, this one is true, and the other ones are false. There is actually a fourth property that belongs to asymmetric cryptographic systems, and this is that they can perform a Diffie-Hellman key exchange. This is actually being used in the Sphinx routing of the Lightning Network, so I decided to explain this property later in the book when I'm actually talking about Sphinx routing. Since this book is really part of my effort to create such a book, I would be really happy if you provide me feedback. Should I keep the property that asymmetric cryptographic systems can be used for encryption, or should I leave this out? Also, I want to emphasize that here I use the RSA cryptographic system instead of the elliptic curve cryptographic system. I did this despite the fact the elliptic curve cryptographic system is being used in Bitcoin, because with elliptic curve cryptography you hardly do asymmetric encryption, but you rather do this Diffie-Hellman key exchange in order to do a symmetric block cipher afterwards. So I would also explain stuff like this in a later video or as part of the book, but again, I would appreciate your feedback, and if you're not able to provide feedback because you're still in the phase of learning this stuff, well then of course I would encourage you again to go to my Telecoin page and help to support my work. And of course, I do not want to forget to mention that I'm very, very grateful to everyone who has contributed so far, either by Bitcoin or by proofreading and criticizing my work. This is really important, and this is really what open source and the Bitcoin and Lightning Network community is all about. This is really, really cool. Thank you.